I just said I was gonna lower the timer.
Is that Roar, Trunky, and Hazards are going to do way too much damage long term. Yeah, that's how you beat Stall, with the Stall with Hazards and Roar. Oh, it used Rest. Wow. That's a shocker. Oh, they're also using Rest. Okay. Oh, Soft Boiled. Knockoff for 8. But there was one hero who didn't. M. Sousa Gamer was not using Stall, but a pretty unconventional grassy terrain offense team. Alright, here we go. So we have, I think it's the grassy terrain team from before. They have Spindrift with Prankster Grassy Terrain, and then you have Unburdened Mad Piano, and you have Unburdened TV Piranha. Meanwhile here, you have Stall, Lubba, Magic Bounce Yucks, you have your Regen Trunky, you have your Toxic Debris Poison Pokey, Multi-Scale Bonetail, Gooper Blooper. So can Grassy Terrain beat Stall? Alright, Bruiser is in the game. Ghost Fighting.
You know, it's honestly hilarious
good abilities, which is interesting.
how Rydiel can't OTK on an empty board like this.
Okay. Swords Dance, you probably have Unburden. I have to think you have Unburden. Okay. Knockoff? No oh, it's triple Unburden, duh. It's triple Unburden. Here is Bruiser. Alright, you got your dances off. Here we go. Alright, Bruiser, I don't know if you can do it, but maybe you have Drain Punch? That could be cool. You go to Trunkle. 54, oh, Bruiser can do it. Bruiser can beat this team. There's no unaware Pokemon. The only thing that takes on the fighting type is Bonetail, the ghost type, but you are also a ghost type. You can't get out of a jam here. You go to Poison Pokey, okay? 34, okay. Come on, Bruiser. It's a little tricky. Maybe you have like a... Oh, the Trunkle has Regen. The Trunkle has Regen. Swords Dance, there we go. If... Okay, it's a big if, but if Trunkle... Knockoff. If Trunkle can live the attack, then it can roar. But Bruiser... Oh, it lived! And Bruiser is gone. Just like that. Live to fight another day, you can regen, come back later. And this time, Bruiser is poisoned. Not going to be as good. You know, Drew had to give up a Pokemon. Swords Dance, he gets the predict right. He gets the predict right. He gets that predict wrong. Okay, Bonetail's back in. I think you always go to Trunkle here. You always go to Trunkle. You have regen. If you Drain Punch here predicting Trunkle, that's a good play in my opinion, but it's tough. You're gonna have to make some predicts here. Trunkle back in. Knockoff. Okay. And Trunkle is gonna live to fight another day. Thief. That's crazy. Why would you Thief? I know, that makes sense. Only attacking move. Shadow Punch. You lose Bonetail. So you... Trunkle is back. Poison Pokey. The Bruiser is living on 1 HP every single time. It's not dying. Spiky Shield. There we go. Okay. Alright. It didn't, I don't know, Bruiser, it got 2 knockouts, but going 1 for 2 ordinarily is good. But if you don't have what it takes to beat the rest of the team, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. So you have the 5-4 lead, but is it only temporary? Is it only temporary? You go to Trunkle. I think I made the Earthquake there. Okay, Trunkle into Mad Piano. You can probably Roar. Superpower critical hit. Oh, that's bad. That is a big crit. Yeah, it's kind of over now. You can't beat Mad Piano anymore. Yux is in, but I mean, what are you doing? Psychic into Ghost, right? You're gonna die. Maybe you try to dodge Poltergeist. What you try to do? You try to dodge Poltergeist here. Yep. Super Blooper. You're done, buddy. GG. Okay, this is the other game going on right now. It's at turn 200. Substitute, Toxic, Knockoff, Protect. Yellow Yoshi. Hazards are finally coming into play on turn 225. Like, it's always been in play. It's gonna pick up some knockouts. Oh! This is at 1. Okay. Cube is at 2. Yellow Yoshi's at 0. Here, you have infinitely black zone. Recover at 5. Rest at 1. Rest at 2. I feel like Apple King is in a better spot. He has more power points. 395. GG. It ended on 395. Not even 400. Alright, next game we have, turn 86, more riveting gameplay. Mariomon has quite a lot of Pokemon with the ability of learning, which doubles your speed when you run Strider. That pairs very well with Grassy Terrain and Grassy Speed. Alright, this is good versus evil. We have Grassy, well, I won't tell you who's good, I don't want to make judgment, but we have a Grassy Terrain team versus a Stall team. We have Screwboyd, Toxic, Mala, you flip turn. Oh, Bruiser is in. Swords Dance. Knockoff, Bruiser's in. Why are you protecting? Why are you protecting? Okay. Okay, come on, Bruiser. You can do it. Substitute, okay? Knockoff, damage. Protect, poison type, drain punch. Okay, you are a poison type here. You're healing all the damage you take, you're healing that. Substitute. Knockoff, okay? Protect, maybe you stall drain punch PP. Okay, drain punch. Come on, Bruiser. Come on, Bruiser. Knock off. Substitute. Substitute. Oh, you can PP stall. You can PP stall drain punch. You only have 12. You only have 12. I don't think you can't win anymore. Critical hits. Oh, wait. Never mind. You can win. You can win. Substitute. Okay. You go to Bone Tail. On Drain Punch. You only have 9. You only have 9. You go to Spike Top on Knockoff. Okay. Rocky Helmet damage. Back to Bone Tail on Drain Punch. Okay, you're at 8. You're at 8 Drain Punch. Knockoff. That lives? Okay. Knockoff again. Yellow Yoshi. Drain Punch, you live that too. Okay. 38. Oh man, this is the Bruiser show. Okay, Shrewboyd's back in. That's gone. Meanwhile, the other game is also on turn 100. Alright, GG. The other game is what we're waiting on now, which is a stall versus stall game. Yeah, they're gonna forfeit here. They know they can't win. You can't win with the amount of, with the resources you have left. Yep, there we go. Critical hit, didn't matter. Yep, there we go. More hazard damage. Yep, there we go. The hazards and Bonetail gotta clean up here. After several hours, the tournament reached the finals. And it set up the final showdown of Unburdened Offense versus Pure Stall. Chat, we have, on the left, we have Grassy Terrain Offense. You have Unburdened Bruiser, Unburdened PD Piranha, Unburdened Mad Piano. And on the right, you have Lubba Stall. Lubba Stall, Mollusk Stall, Yellow Yoshi Stall, Blarg Stall, Bonetail Stall, Spike Top Stall. Only player using Spindrift. I have never seen anybody else use Spindrift. He's using a lot of underrated Pokemon. And there's a lot of meta Pokemon here, a lot of the top Pokemon on the other side. Alright, Mad Piano into Bonetail. Now Bonetail has Willow. You can easily burn Mad Piano here. Spindrift is in. Now what does it do? Nobody knows. It looks like Whimsicott though. Okay, Grassy Terrain and then Shadow Bone. Okay. Moonblast into Mollusk doing 5. Okay. Oh, Bruiser is into Mollusk. Okay. It's time. You gotta believe. Oh, he goes to Blarg. Substitute. Okay. You have your defense boost. Swords Dance, Blarg, Magma Storm. Oh, well, you're kind of screwed. Okay. You have to dodge Magma Storm, maybe. That could be an idea. Okay, okay, come on. All 4? Oh, no. Well, you can still dodge Willow, right? 52? Oh, you can't dodge. It's not Willow, it's the guaranteed burn. And it's over. All 5. All 5. Okay, Mad Piano. It's your time to shine. You have weakened Blarg. Blarg has been weakened. Piano can clutch. Mad Piano can still clutch. 57? Oh, never mind. It can't clutch. It's over, chat. No! What about PD Piranha? 51? Okay. You've weakened it for PD Piranha. It's time. Now, there is still... I think you have to dodge Willow. Every angle needs you to dodge Willow from Bonetail. Alright, you get one knockout. Blarg is back. Okay, you have to dodge... You can't dodge Sizzly Slide. Okay, you switch out here. Okay. Live to fight another day, right? Live to fight another day. Okay, Steam Eruption. Okay, that's a good burn to get rid of Multiscale. Now they can rest, but at least you got them burned to get rid of Multiscale. Flip turn, right? XOR welcome. You can get Willow burned. Good pivot. Yeah, so you're... Imagine you stall out all 22 Willows. Imagine you stall out all 22 Willows. I don't really like Steam Eruption there. I guess you're trying to force them to rest. Flip turn. Bonetail is getting weakened here. XOR is in the game now. Do you bait another Willow and go to Mollusk here? You're trying to force them to rest, right? If you force them to rest, then you have 2 turns to do whatever you want. Yep, okay, you bait them here. Now you can flip turn again. You have to be very careful if you're the Bone Tail. You're getting grinded down right now. And if you, the minute you rest, okay, does it flip turn? Flip turns, okay. PD Piranha in. I don't imagine Acrobatics knocks it out, does it? It could. You've weakened, no. Disclaimer, there's always one flame body that ruins everything, right? But you are weakening the team. The Blarg has flame body, and that can change. Mollusk! Ooh, so maybe that didn't kill. Well, now you can flip turn again. Okay. Surely now you go back to Piranha. Exor, okay. No, what are you doing? Lum, it's Lum. Oh my god, it's Lum. Then I think you should have, if you were Lum, you should have saved it for the Blarg, right? You were already beating the Bone Tail. I think you maybe wanted to save the Lum for Blarg. No, chat, I don't think this is good. I think if they were willing to give up Bone Tail anyway, right? You could have removed Bone Tail and then used Exor later. No, chat, I'm not sure if it's good. I think you need, there's 2 Pokemon that can burn you. You had to Willow, you had the Lum for only one of them. Yeah, I think you needed to save Lum. All right. You know, don't quote me. I think PD Piranha can win, right? You're talking, okay, you go to Lubba here, flip turn. No flip turn, Steam Eruption, that's fine. Okay, Wish, Protect, Knock Off, and Moonblast, right? So it might not have Teleport. Critical hit 37, okay. You could go to Exor if you have Earthquake to kind of deny entry to Blarg. Go to Piranha. Now the problem here is that Acro won't KO Blarg. We don't know the final move on Lubba. It could be Knockoff. It could be like your Wish, Protect, attacking move, and then either Knockoff or Teleport or Thunder Wave, right? Okay, back to Mollusk. Okay, yeah, I think this was fine, right? If you couldn't KO Blarg, you kind of had to let this happen, right? Now you flip turn on Lubba. You take Spike Top. That doesn't KO. Okay, well, PD Piranha's in. Yeah, I think you have to go back to Mollusk almost, because otherwise Blarg is going to go fishing. Yeah, Blarg's going fishing. No! Yeah, I think you kind of had to go Mollusk here, because Blarg could always fish you. He could always fish. Can Exor win, though? Exor can maybe win, right? I don't like flip turn there. That's fine, though. Because, again, you bait in the fire attack. You go to Mollusk, you heal. No, but Exor cannot beat Yellow Yoshi. So you needed Piranha. You really needed Piranha to not be burnt. Acro 20, go to Mollusk here, and then you can flip turn, right? You have ID. This is not over, by the way. Like, Mollusk can flip turn spam on Lubba. Like, yeah, imagine you flip turn here. You flip turn on Lubba. And then you go to Exor. Magma Storm? That's a crazy stay, by the way. That's fine, though. I mean, it's not that crazy. Flip turn. There we go. Look at that damage, right? Mollusk can still win. This is going to protect here, or it's not going to protect. I don't know, but... Okay. Yeah, 47, buddy, that's not good enough. Okay. Do you double switch Mollusk here? Do you bring in Mollusk? I mean, you can win. Mollusk can win. You have your flip, you have your Steam Eruption, you've weakened Lubba. There are ideas, right? There are ideas of winning. You go to Blarg, Swords Dance. I think I would have liked to have seen a Mollusk switch there. But this is fine too. This sequencing is still fine. Okay, now you threaten Steam Eruption. You can flip turn, right? You flip turn on the switch, and Lubba is getting weakened and weakened and weakened. There we go. Flip turn. Look at that. 27. You're chipping it down into PD Piranha. Okay. I think this is fine. This is fine. Right? Yeah, if Lubba dies, it's over. All you need is Lubba to faint. And you win. So you're putting a lot of pressure here with your combo. Swords Dance? No. Okay. I double switch Lubba. Nah, he acroed. Okay. Do you acro again, predicting Lubba to switch into Mollusk? I mean, you always flip. Oh no, but Yoshi outspeeds you. Lubba? No! I mean, you go to XOR, you can Swords Dance here. I don't know if I like PD Piranha here though. You Swords Dance on Protect. Yeah, but then what, right? Yeah, all the progress is gone. Your Acro does 40. Acro does 40 to Blarg, right? Oh, 42! He's back. PD Piranha is back. Okay. The roll, we saw it do 40 one time. Now it's doing 42. The roll is somewhere in that 40 to 42 range. Maybe a little bit more, maybe 38, maybe a little bit higher, 45, right? You don't know? No, 38, 38, 38, 38. You have one hit left, so you can grass type move and pick up a KO on Lubba, Yoshi, or Blarg. You have a grass type move, presumably. Yep, there we go, okay. Okay, Mollusk into Lubba, but Lubba can't damage you, right? The problem is going to be if Yoshi, right? You go to XOR here, you have to double Mollusk in, right? If you let them go to Yoshi for free, you lose. Yeah, you have to go Mollusk here. And, you know, Steam Eruption, Flip Turn, you only have 2, so you have to save 1 Steam Eruption for Yoshi. You need one Steam Eruption for Yoshi, but you need a lot of damage on the other. The predicts are tough. You have to get every play right, otherwise you lose the game. You have to get every predict right here. So flip into Lubba. Flip into Lubba? Okay, that's 1. Now you have another play. You can Behemoth Blade, or you can switch to Mollusk predicting Yoshi, but they can also protect for free too. So do you go back to a Mollusk predicting the switch? Okay. But they wished. Yep. Yep. Yeah, it was over. You have to go back to Mollusk, okay? Now you do it all again. You only have 1 Steam Eruption. You have to get the plays right. You have to get the predicts right. They can always protect for free. Always they can protect for free. You can go to Mollusk trying to predict, you know, Yoshi. Swords Dance? No, okay. Well, yeah, now you go to Mollusk. You always go to Mollusk predicting Yoshi. Oh, no, never mind. Now it's over. Yeah, I mean, the flame body burns was tough, and then you had like it was definitely net unlucky for sure. Can you PP stall? I doubt it. Like you eventually get dropped so much that you can't knock out Yoshi, right? Yeah, you had the 5 Magma Storm hits, and then you had the 4 of them mattered, right? You had 4 Magma Storm hits, and then you had the Flame Body Burn. Again, 30% is a pretty high chance, right? But you had the Flame Body Burn and the Steam Eruption dodge, yeah. Oh yeah, and then you had the PD low roll. You had the 42 into 38 roll on Larg. Okay, here's how you win, right? You have 57 rapid spin, right? You out damage Lubba, and then you have to critical hit the Yoshi. Right? That's what you have to do. Out damage Lubba with 57 rapid spins, and then Steam Eruption crit the Yoshi. Look at that, 15. Like, 15 isn't a lot, but it does in fact out damage. Wait a minute. This is doable. We were joking. This is doable. You 15 out damages leftovers, and you have 53 of them. You have 7 wish. Oh, you probably don't do enough, do you? Okay, you have 6 wish. And yeah, it can always wish pass to Yoshi too. Yeah, this is over. This is over. What am I saying? This is over. Yeah, you have to critically hit the Yoshi. Like you have enough recover PP to stall out Moonblast, right? Protect. Rapid spin good that you're not wasting your PP on that. There's only 5 wish left. There's only 5 wish left. He goes to Yoshi. Oh! He got it! He got the crit! You 100% win now. You have more PP than they have recovery. It'll take a while, but you do 100% win. Because Rapid Spin has 44 PP, you always win. That was... Wow. Dude, if I played 2 hours of stall to finish second, I would actually kill myself.
I have retaken this one in the years since, just out of curiosity and amusement, but I am delighted to tell you my result has never changed. There are 7 possible results for this U quiz: Kakashi, Killua, Silver the Hedgehog, Kaworu, Komaeda, Prussia, and of course, Godot from Ace Attorney. So you can probably see where I'm going with this. I lied. I lied to you. There are 8 results. There are 8. Now, at this point in time, I have never seen this man in my life, but the description here, in all caps, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" charmed the ever-loving shit out of me. So I googled him, and I went to his AA wiki page, and I saw too much text, and my ADHD kicked in, and I realized I didn't actually care. I then instead went to Tumblr, who are much more interesting than a wiki page, and asked them, in very clear language of course, who the fuck this guy was. The response I got was not exactly what I was expecting. Now, U quizzes are mostly meant to be fun and silly. I don't think anyone actually takes them that seriously. And while I have gotten a few U quiz results that have had me feeling incredibly known, I am no real exception to that rule. So I want to preface this by saying my Tumblr followers were just playing in the space with me. They weren't up in arms or anything. But, a humble viewer, when I tell you I was flooded with asks. Tons of the people following me, to my memory close to 10 or 15 at least, had some very passionate opinions about this U quiz result. No one, and I mean no one, actually said a word to me about who Manfred von Karma was. No, they seemed to gloss over him entirely, ignoring the part where I asked about him. My Tumblr followers, all different people from different walks of life, most of whom did not know one another, had but one single mission, one single piece of information they needed to relay to me. Francisca. Francisca? The name escapes me. Francisca. And I thought to myself, Ace Attorney? Ace Attorney is only about the 2 guys, right? It's about Phoenix and his roughly boyfriend. And I guess this old vampire-looking guy, but Francisca, I don't know a Francisca. Furthermore, that sounds like a woman's name. There aren't women in Ace Attorney. Are there? I really like it when people compare me to fictional characters. It's a surefire way to get me into a thing you like, and it's also a declaration of love. Hi, friend of mine. I love you so much that I see you in endless places. I see you even where you are not. Here is a whole other person, but I see the creases of your smile in their own. I see your convictions and your pain when I see theirs. It's one of the most kind and loving things someone can do to me. And people do this to me a lot. You know, I'm one of them fictionkins, and I have been since I was a child. So the people who love me tell me when they see me in fiction. But this was different. This was intense. And this was numerous. I'm used to the occasional, this character reminds me of you here and there. It's normally a whisper, a giggle, a gentle thing on a sleepover movie night, murmured beneath the covers and punctuated with a slap on the arm. That was not what I received when I posted this U quiz result. The crowd declaring me this Francisca individual was uproarious. They were emphatic. They were almost offended on my behalf that the first time any force compared me to an ace attorney, it was just a hair off, just a single Von Karma out of line. Some of them talked like it was their life's mission to right this wrong, to die at my heel while they croaked this final message out. Tumblr user Musashi. Google Francisca Von Karma. And, well, I was a little shocked at that. What could she possibly have in common with me that so many people felt so strongly that I needed to know? Her. Of all the characters to choose. Well, I had to know. So I wound up on her wiki page, skimming the personality section as I often do to avoid spoilers in case I ever do get into the thing. I picked out some words as I skimmed. Competitive, unrelenting, cold, whip-wielding, mean. I closed the tab. I deleted every ask. And I didn't think about Francisca Von Karma for another 2 years. When those 2 years were up, I joined a Discord server. I was in a weird place, and I really needed friends. At the time, I was super into The Legend of Zelda, so I joined a Zelda server and put myself out there trying to make friends with like-minded interests. I'm still in that server to this day, and I can say with full confidence, it's one of the best spaces I've ever been a part of. In the early days, it was about what you'd expect, until one day the topic of Ace Attorney came up. You see, a wonderful YouTuber called RT Game had been playing the trilogy, and he had taken a bit of a liking to Manfred Von Karma. The AA fans in the server were having a laugh about it, posting clips from the playthrough, and I, seeking to make conversation despite my lack of knowledge on the topic, well, I dipped a toe in.
I don't AA, but I got this guy on a white-haired anime man personality U quiz once. The description just said, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
In retrospect, I now know that this was probably an insane thing to say to people who knew the canon. My friends were sure to tell me of this fact, while I scrambled to explain myself.
Moo, I have questions and concerns at that fact.
I don't know. I'm a supervillain, maybe it got confused.
Well, he did kill a man, then adopt that man's son, then tried to accuse him of murder as a final FU to the guy he killed.
Did the guy deserve it?
Not at all.
Damn, yeah, I don't know.
I expected that to be the end of it, but then, of course, like clockwork, everything circled back around.
Wait, Moo, you should look up Francisca Von Karma. She's white-haired guy's daughter and she's great. Francisca is great. She brings a whip to court and no one is safe. Love her and hate her. Whipped a man so hard he passed out and no one said anything.
When I said I got him on the quiz, everyone flooded my inbox to tell me I was her instead. Like unanimously. Multiple asks.
You are 100% Francisca.
This time I felt differently. I'm not Tumblr famous, I don't think, but I do have some Tumblr clout, the most useless form of clout there is. At present, I have close to 9,000 followers, and while most of my interactions on ye olde hell site are positive, I do sometimes get caught up in some of the less pleasant bits of having some semblance of a platform. One thing I struggle with is people reducing my human complexities down to a few traits they observe simply from my online presence. Like most people, there's a lot going on inside my heart and head, and most of it can't be summarized on my social media. media, even when I am oversharing nonstop on tumblr.corn. Obviously, I know they're just repeating back to me what they see, but sometimes, despite my best efforts, I get a little in my own head about it. A bunch of relative strangers assigning me a mean lady with a whip evidently hurt my feelings. And that's why I paid no mind to it, ignored it for 2 years, and never thought about it again, because I am mean, and I am fierce, and I am arrogant and emotional and haughty, but don't they see I'm so many other things too? How dare they reduce me to only my thorns, armor I was forced to don and chose to keep because long after I needed it, I thought it shone ever so beautifully in the sunlight. I scorned people for only seeing me as a mean anime girl with a weapon in her hands, and I didn't give them a second thought. But now, these were not strangers, reiterating that comparison. These were my friends, people who I felt really did see me, even at this early stage of our friendship. And if they said I was Francisca, well, maybe it was worth digging a little deeper into. Maybe there was something there I wasn't seeing. As fate would have it, I didn't have to, because only a few weeks later the admin of the server had a question. If they streamed the Ace Attorney games, would anyone want to join them? And we could all experience the story together? I'd love to, I said, and a year and a half later we still play them as a Saturday tradition. I lasted 3 months before I bought myself a bullwhip. If Ace Attorney was an ocean, it didn't just lap at my ankles. I think once upon a time I tried to wade, but before I had time to blink, its tides had taken me, and I was thrown beneath the waves into the glittering blue world below. I wasn't expecting to get autistic about Ace Attorney at all, let alone that fast, and I certainly wasn't expecting everyone to be so right. Not only did I feel an incredible connection to Francisca von Karma, but I felt a connection to her that outshone almost every fictional character I've ever identified with or as. I thought, this is one of the best female characters I've ever seen in any piece of media ever, and I was certain that the internet would agree. That notion was, as the legend herself would say, foolish.
Phoenix Wright. I can't wait.
Let's take it back a bit. We can't talk about Francisca von Karma without talking about the man who came before her. Manfred von Karma, for those who are unaware, was the final boss, so to speak, of the first game in the Ace Attorney trilogy. He was a terrifying prosecutor introduced in the final hour with a presence that makes the player feel as though they've lost before the cross-examination even begins. What's more, he was a literal legend, a walking god amongst prosecutors, with a 40-year win record under his belt and countless accolades to the already hefty weight of his name. I have another video where I talk in length about Manfred because he's one of my favorite characters in Ace Attorney, and if you want the full rundown on who I personally think he is, or even just the gist of his place in the story, the link to that will be in the description should you want some of my thoughts. Suffice it to say though, Manfred is a terrifying individual who uses every means at his disposal to try and beat Phoenix into submission. His introduction to the story is not only that of the prosecutor in this final case, but also the mentor and surrogate father to Miles Edgeworth, Phoenix's good friend and courtroom rival. Manfred took Miles in when he was a young orphan, mentored him when he made the choice to become a prosecutor himself, and honed his skills in court until they stood two ruthless pillars of justice behind the bench. This final case is a tragic conclusion to that relationship that Miles and Manfred have. When the truth of it is finally revealed, we find out that Manfred did not simply take in a young, orphaned Miles Edgeworth. Manfred von Karma is the very man who shot and killed Miles's father himself. Not only that, but Manfred then attempted to frame Miles himself for the murder, as well as a completely different murder he orchestrated to fall on the 15-year anniversary of the incident. Ultimately, justice is served. Phoenix wins the case in Miles's favor, and Manfred von Karma is dragged off to prison and sentenced to death row. But the conclusion of this case is obviously bittersweet. While Miles himself gains some closure, it comes at the price of finding out that the man who's been his rock for 15 long years was the monster hiding in the shadows all along. This, plus quite a few other factors, shake Miles to his very core and make him question everything he is and everything he knows. Phoenix, too, is haunted by this final case. Mere mention of Manfred's name gives him flashbacks. While Manfred von Karma physically exits the story, never to be seen or heard from again, his presence continues to haunt the narrative long after his death. This is driven home especially by the fact that the crime he committed 15 years ago had intense ripple effects, affecting almost every single character in this original trilogy and changing the lives of everyone it touches through chain reaction alone. Ace Attorney 2: Justice for All picks up a few months after the first game's ending. After a brief tutorial that has little bearing on the story, we're thrown into our first real case. Once more, Phoenix's best friend and legal assistant Maya is on trial for a murder she most certainly didn't intend to commit, and it's up to us to help Phoenix get her acquitted. This investigation on the first day putters along in a fashion perfectly typical for Ace Attorney, right up until the last few minutes at the scene. Phoenix is chatting with Dick Gumshoe about the circumstances when the detective drops an absolute bombshell. He tells Phoenix that the prosecutor on this case is Von Karma. Immediately, Phoenix locks up, his heart racing on its own before he can find his common sense. Naturally, he has questions. How could it be Von Karma? Von Karma was a ruthless murderer who stood trial and was locked up, disbarred, and disgraced. Why would he be back in the courtroom? Gumshoe backpedals then, clarifying, No, it's not that Von Karma. It's his successor. This only raises further questions. Successor? He had a successor prepared. Gumshoe informs Phoenix that not only is it his successor, it's literally Manfred von Karma's child, who was born and raised in Germany and has been overseas prosecuting all this time after becoming a lawyer at the tender age of 13. They're revealed to be a prodigy, with all the makings of a legend. The game is very careful here to not drop a single pronoun or gendered term. The intended effect, of course, is to needle at the player's internalized misogyny. If you aren't familiar with canon, you'll more than likely be picturing a young man in your head standing there on the other side of the courtroom. It isn't until you're literally in court with her that you realize Manfred's successor to the Von Karma throne is actually his youngest daughter. So, with all that setup out of the way, I can finally now talk about Franziska. When Phoenix initially enters the courtroom, he actually doesn't register that Franziska is even the prosecutor. Though she's dressed to the nines and propped up on sharpened stilettos, Phoenix sees her for what she is, a child. Franziska is barely 18. Her whole ensemble an attempt to make herself look bigger that only kind of works. She attributes this hesitation to recognizing her to misogyny, questioning Phoenix on if he's surprised at her being a woman. And then, to the shock of everyone in the courtroom, Franziska pulls out a whip and declares to Phoenix her mission: revenge. She does not elaborate further. When the judge tries to interrupt her, she whips him and lets everyone know in no uncertain terms that if they speak out of line, she'll whip them too. She proves this by whipping Phoenix mere seconds later for breathing a little too loudly. This is our first impression of Franziska. She is a domineering, confident, sharp-tongued woman who doesn't allow herself to be overshadowed or spoken over, a perfect successor to the legend who came before her. The game does its best to remind you whenever it can that she is Manfred's daughter. Sprite mirroring is a staple of showing off relationships in the Ace Attorney franchise, and Franziska's own sprites are no exception. While she doesn't resemble her father much physically, she does mirror a ton of his mannerisms, and the one physical trait they do have in common, their eyes, is an incredibly striking choice. I've always really loved how Franziska is, all things considered, a cute young girl, but then she's just got her dad's evil stink eye always leveled at her enemies. One of the things no one talks about, though, is a very particular trait of Manfred's that carried over to Franziska. See, Manfred has this way of capturing the courtroom's attention when he's prosecuting. He snaps his fingers. Whether the peanut gallery is getting unruly or he simply feels the need to remind everyone who's in charge, the sound design on these piercing finger snaps of his is incredibly effective at striking fear into the heart of the player. This gesture represents control, evidenced by one of my favorite scenes here in the anime after Manfred's been exposed. He tries to snap his fingers like he always does, but he can't. He's lost control of the situation. The courtroom no longer bends to his will, and so the gesture fumbles and fizzles as he struggles to gain footing. Manfred's presence on its own is imposing and hulking enough that a mere snap of his digits is enough to shut you down. Franziska, though, is quite little, and as previously mentioned, is a cute young girl, not a dehydrated Dracula like her father. So she brings some heavier artillery. I never, ever see people point out that Francisca's whip is meant to be a parallel to her father's finger snapping, but I'm here right now, so I'll just point it out. Few things infuriate me more in AA spaces than the misunderstanding of the importance of Francisca's whip. More than a few times I've seen people call it annoying or gimmicky, and well, I guess I kinda sorta understand where they're coming from. I don't think many people really know what it's meant to represent. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the whip in relation to Francisca for a while. Remember at the beginning of this trial when Francisca asked Phoenix if he was shocked that she was a woman? This is not just a throwaway line. Canon is a little subtle with this, but the shape of it is there nonetheless. Francisca is a person fighting an uphill battle against a lot of misogyny in her line of work. Not only is she a woman in a male-dominated profession, but she is a teenager as well, and anyone who's ever been a little girl will tell you how hard it is to be taken seriously by
I completely missed that misogyny was an important part of her character.
Asking Phoenix this. Over in case 3-5,
Because believe it or not, I myself don't care if my lawyer's a man or a woman.
That she believes when people see her, they view her as nothing more than a poor, helpless waif simply because she's young and female. And when you look at Francisca, you start to realize just how much of her is purposely created to combat this notion. Look at her design for one. The massive poofy Juliet sleeves, the signature Von Karma ruffles, the high heels. Francisca is the lawyerly equivalent of an adolescent reptile puffing out its neck frills to scare off predators. Couple that with her excessively professional, fancy getup. Remember, Maya and her are the same age, but Francisca looks years ahead. None of this is accidental. Francisca very carefully crafted this image, that of someone who is older and bigger and more competent and imposing than she may seem. But that still wasn't enough, and that's why she has the whip. No man, however condescending, can keep a straight face when they're getting lashed to hell and back. While I tend to waffle on its canonicity, this is also something that's present in her flashback case in Ace Attorney Investigations. Here we get to see her at age 13, right before she's set to pass the bar, and despite this fact, no one will take her seriously. It's all just comments about how she's a brat and a kid, and she is, but also, like, of course she's going to act out when so many people act so unbelievably condescending toward her. Bad attitude or not, Francisca's a genius who's very excited to work a crime scene and string a case together, yet all anyone will do is make comments about her age. So she beats the shit out of them. As she should. The riding crop and whip are the only way she can manage to command attention and control the situation. By Francisca's own admission, she feels that the people around her underestimate her capabilities. Francisca's whip is not just a physical object that exists in proximity to her. It is also heavily symbolic of the control she feels she has over any given situation. It's an item of comfort she clings to, a failsafe for when she feels as though she has no control. So long as Francisca has her whip, she has her own destiny firmly within her hands. It is not just a gimmick, and it is not just for slapstick violence. It is an important metaphor that represents her as
it is for slapstick violence. That's definitely an important thing.
But I would like to offer you a suggestion. Plead self-defense.
It is most definitely. It is most definitely the initial reason why they gave her a whip.
As well, understandably feel the need to compare Francisca to her father. As previously mentioned, there is a lot to compare. Francisca carries many of Manfred's mannerisms and a lot of his personality too. Coldness, callousness, haughtiness, little patience for nonsense, rigid perfectionism. I get the impression that more than a few times she and her father have walked into a room only for everyone around them to think fearfully.
Holy shit, there's two of them.
The similarities end though, and I wish there was more analysis on how and where and why they end. I have a lot to say on this topic, and it's analysis that has to be scattered throughout the video in order for it to make the most cohesive sense. So right now at the beginning of JFA, I want to talk about what is immediately apparent. Francisca's prosecution style. I think that it can probably be pretty easy to look at Francisca and Manfred and at surface level say their way of prosecuting is a mirror image. The both of them have a tendency to exude absolute control over their witnesses, coaching them very carefully on what to say, or rather, what not to say. In real life, this is actually pretty standard practice for any lawyer with a brain, but Ace Attorney tends to play up and exaggerate what corruption looks like in the courtroom, and so oftentimes the prosecution's manipulation of key evidence is something that the truth of the trial absolutely hinges on. The Von Karma style of prosecuting definitely encourages witnesses to keep details to themselves, because Phoenix has a tendency to get hung up on those details and find his client's innocence within them. On surface level, control is once again the name of the game. Control the witness, control the judge, control the defense. If you remain in control, the road to the perfect win is clear on the horizon. Franziska and her father both follow this principle, but there is one difference, glaring and key, that sets them apart. Simply put, Franziska fights for justice. Manfred fights to win. This may be a controversial take, and I promise by the end of this video I will prove to you that that's not so. Franziska does care about her win record. It's one of the most important things in her entire life, something she builds her whole identity upon. But she also cares about making sure that justice is served, and she cares about this in tandem with her desire to win. I find it strange that so many people, including characters in the story, seem to find these things mutually exclusive. Because we play this game through Phoenix's eyes, we're meant to scorn the prosecution. After all, how could they fight so hard for what amounts to lies? We know Phoenix's clients are innocent. By definition, then, the prosecution fights for the deaths of these innocents, because in case it wasn't clear, almost every culprit in Ace Attorney is handed a death sentence. But in Game 1, this notion is challenged. Miles Edgeworth turns it on its head. He opens up about his trauma, how it fueled his desire to prosecute, because he wanted to fight for the victims, not the accused. In a very short time, the player goes from scorning the prosecution to understanding that we are working together. There is one truth to every case, and trial exists so that both sides of the courtroom can uncover it together. Almost everyone I've encountered is very soft on Miles, despite some of the horrible things he did as the demon prosecutor. It's implied that he sent plenty of innocents to prison, simply because he couldn't comprehend that the court system was flawed, skewed in the prosecution's favor. But the fandom and the canon itself forgives Miles, even when it really doesn't have to. We understand where he was coming from in time, and we appreciate the complexities of his character because of it. I don't see Franziska given this same treatment. Yes, she is a ruthless prosecutor, but just like Miles, we are in time shown that she does this because she cares about the victims. I will speak more on this later on in the video. Right now, though, I want to circle back to Franziska's prosecution style and why everyone who says she prosecutes like her father is missing the mark. Here is the thing about Manfred von Karma's control. It is short, succinct, and leaves no room for argument. Honestly, this is a side note, but the choice to make this bitch German in the English localization was the most big brain shit I've ever seen, because this motherfucker embodies the spirit of German communication in a way I rarely see in fiction. His opening statement is 11 words long. He cannot be bothered to call the judge by his proper title, and the judge is too fucking scared to correct him. Manfred rarely asks questions, only offers commands. Testify. Tell the court about this. Tell the court about that. If they talk too long, he silences them. He speaks on their behalf. He speaks on the judge's behalf. He speaks on the defense's behalf. Manfred prides himself on short trials. Guilty verdicts in mere minutes. At the start of Day 2's trial, he proudly declares the verdict will be given in 3 minutes and then counts down the seconds himself. Manfred von Karma doesn't have time for this. Trial is a notch in his belt. We can infer that he is not here to examine the details. He is here to rack up wins. Perhaps once upon a time he did do all this for the pursuit of justice, but many years and at least one murder later, that is not the man he is anymore. Franziska is, by all accounts, his complete opposite. In the beginning of this trial, one of the first things Franziska does is offer a plea bargain, something that to my memory has never happened in AA before this. She advises Phoenix to settle for a justified self-defense charge, a lesser sentence but one that would still see Maya found guilty. Phoenix, of course, denies this and pushes for a full acquittal, because he's Phoenix. This is a very interesting way for Franziska to start the trial. On first blush, I think anyone playing these games for the first time, and anyone who doesn't give Franziska much thought, might see her there in the shadow of her father and immediately jump to the conclusion that she's trying to get an easy win in a short amount of time. I, however, emphatically believe that not to be the case, because, like I said, that is what Manfred would do. That is not Franziska. Pay close attention to the trial as it plays out, and you'll note that Franziska likes to play with her food. She would much rather drag a trial out. follow every branching thought, and take the opportunity to slowly crush every possibility one by one. Manfred refuses to risk a thread of truth unearthing itself. Franziska possesses none of his cowardice. She'd rather pluck those threads one by one. For example, at one point in this trial, while Lotta is on the witness stand, the judge quite literally says that he is done hearing her testimony. They hit a wall, and Maya's guilt seems to be proven. And even though Phoenix has further questions and a key detail he needs to bring up, he's overruled and about to lose. Franziska doesn't let that happen, though. Despite the fact that she was mere inches from victory, she overrules the judge and demands that he let Phoenix continue. When prompted, this is what she says. Avant Karma's case is perfect. Absolutely flawless. In essence, if Franziska were to let this argument of Phoenix's go unquashed, then she wouldn't be handing down perfect justice. To her, perfect justice and a perfect case hinges on the most absolute truth being brought to light. No room for doubts, no room for unanswered questions, and no argument from the defense gone unanswered. Despite how foolishly foolish her fool of an opponent sounds as he foolishly flaps his foolish gums, Franziska will gladly sit there and hear every word simply so she can strike it down and rest well at night knowing she 100%ed her court case. No half measures, no half-assing. Avant Karma does everything with their whole heart. So, back to that justified self-defense plea. We've established that Franziska is not the type of person who wants a quick and easy win in court. So, by that logic, her offering the plea deal to Phoenix had to have some other reason, one that we as observers are never told and only left to speculate upon. And, because this is a video about the often unspoken deeper nuances of Franziska's character, I'm going to do just that, albeit with the help of someone else. This next part of the analysis is not my own theory crafting. I owe every word of it to my dear friend Pictures with Boxes, who actually likes Franziska a million times more than me. From this moment on, I am denoting her ideas and words via an overlay of her typing the trademark symbol into our Discord DM window. As you can see from my interest in lawyer-based media, I am somewhat of a lawyer myself, and thus I know extensively that this is in fact how copyright law works. Why
You need to put a
Franziska
fucking
attempts the plea bargain?
legal
And
statement
what does the
there.
answer to that question tell us about her character? Well, simply put,
You can't just
Franziska
call yourself
does
a lawyer
not think that
willy-nilly.
Maya should be on trial for murder. See, it's established in the trial that in preparation for this case, Franziska did some fairly extensive research into the Quran school of channeling. This being the case, she should know that when a medium channels, they essentially give up their body to the spirit and blink out of existence. Ergo, despite Maya's hands allegedly being wrapped around the murder weapon, it was not actually Maya who did the killing. Laws are not described and followed to the letter in Ace Attorney. One of my favorite posts of all time that kind of shaped how I write AA fanfiction said something to the effect of, I have no idea how court works, but neither does Capcom, so it's okay. I find that to be true in many regards, but that doesn't mean that the proceedings in the series are completely divorced of their real-world inspiration. A lot of what we see in Ace Attorney is stuff you'd see and hear in an actual courtroom. I bring this up because legalese is wordy and hard to parse for a reason. Laws are described with incredible detail and meticulousness to avoid technicalities propping up and being taken advantage of. Everything in every law, if it's
And
written up to
no,
standard, should be
I think it's for the opposite reason.
So, murder. Murder is a serious charge, and one we've had plenty of time to clearly define within the parameters of the penal system. One crucial part of murder in pretty much all jurisdictions is intent. In degrees 1 through 3, there has to be intent to harm. With no intent, the correct charge is something closer to manslaughter or negligent homicide. If Maya is not in control of her own body, there is no possible way for her to have any intent to harm or kill. Franziska is a good lawyer who is clearly dedicated to due diligence, and so it's likely that she came to the conclusion that Maya should not be on trial for the crime she was charged with. That's why I personally believe she offered Phoenix the deal. It wasn't just to maintain her record, but because she too knew that if anything, Maya should be on trial for negligent homicide at most. From Franziska's perspective, a dead woman pulled that trigger. She knows she cannot prosecute the dead, but there is still justice to be served, and she wants to figure out the most perfect way to serve it. Perfect revenge means perfect justice, and there is no perfect justice in sending an innocent woman to death row. There is no perfect justice in convicting someone who did not have any agency or malice of forethought. So, compromise. Phoenix takes the plea deal, Maya and Morgan are forced to pay damages, Maya is found guilty, but allowed to walk free, and Francisca keeps her perfect record. Phoenix, stubbornly holding on to his quest for a full acquittal, ends up being the right move, because, as it turns out, there were no spirits involved to begin with, and Maya's body at no point had any part in any of it. But with all the knowledge she had at the time, Francisca certainly did her best with what she was given. And as far as prosecutors go, at this point in the story, we can already say that she's one of the most thorough and cunning. Not only that, but we can see that for all the bragging she does about her perfect record, there is a part of her that wants, more than anything, for justice to be served.
この2つどっちがいいと思う？
さあ。
そうだ。あの赤い服。
そうだ。
レイジと同じ赤い服を着てるし。
One of, if not the most crucial pieces of Francisca's character seemingly comes out of nowhere, buried dead center in a case that is, in large part, scorned as skippable filler by most of the fan base. I'm here to tell you why, actually, it is exactly where it belongs, and in the process, I might even make you change your mind on that infamous case. Yes, really. Bear with me. If you've played this second game, then you already know what scene in particular I'm talking about, but I want to talk specifically about how genius I find the presentation of it to be, for multiple reasons. This scene takes place during the second investigation of Case 2-3 Turnabout Big Talk. Phoenix and Maya are at the scene of the crime following some leads that came to light, and Francisca joins them, gloating and insulting them, and generally being Francisca. Maya, an absolute legend who has no awareness nor care for appropriate things to say in any given social situation, says something that is genuinely pretty fucking horrible to Francisca. She walks right up to Francisca, looks her in the eyes, and says, "Why are you such a jackass to us? Beating us in court isn't gonna bring your dead dad back." This is the second time someone said this to Francisca. Phoenix also said this to her in the last case, and Francisca ignored him because, again, that's an insane thing to say. Still, she spent every other breath declaring that she will get her revenge on Phoenix.
I already summoned Little Knight.
Maya and the player themselves.
This is embarrassing.
All seem to come to the same conclusion.
I
that
am
Francisca
embarrassing.
is grieving the loss of her father, his fall to this rookie defense attorney. That Francisca wants to best right in court to avenge her father because that, well, that's what makes the most sense. That's what the game wants you to think, right? But then Francisca flips the script on everyone. My dad. You must mean the esteemed Manfred von Karma. Of course, your dad. I know you miss him. Enough out of you. One more word and you'll get a mouthful of lip. Now, when did I ever bring up my papa's name in this or any other conversation? Confusion sweeps across the crime scene as she lets that statement hang, because if you go back and pay attention, she's right. She hasn't mentioned him at all, and when others have mentioned him, she's ignored it entirely, not giving the idea a second thought. No, she says, this has nothing to do with Manfred von Karma. Francisca's revenge is about none other than Miles Edgeworth, because what the narrative has pushed into the background, what it has refused to clue the player in on until this crucial moment, the thing that's just been lurking there and alluded to but never outright said until now. After Manfred was put away and Miles was forced to reckon with the conclusion of that case, he disappeared without a trace. One day he was there and gone the next. To make matters worse, he left what could very well be a suicide note behind. Signed simply, Prosecutor Miles Edgeworth chooses death. Phoenix, understandably, did not take this well. He has been spending the better half of a year trying to keep Miles from his thoughts, heartbroken at the idea that his friend abandoned him, or worse, died on him. And so, shaking, he asks Francisca why she would even bring him up. This is when Francisca completely turns the tides, recontextualizes everything in the game.